My dear viewers, beginning today is the official Alliteration Gaming Patreon and channel members. Throughout my Patreon, we've got quite a few tiers you can check out in order to gain special perks and even commission videos that you'd like to see me upload onto the channel. Every tier includes a shout out on my supporter card at the beginning of all of my videos, along with the benefits of the tier itself. Following that, you can now also join the Alliteration Nation by becoming a channel member on the YouTube side of things. Pledging your subscription here as a member of the channel is going to grant you the same shout out on my supporter card as all the Patreon tiers do, as well as access to the members only channel on my Discord. You'll gain a member badge that will level up as you stay subscribed and access to my exclusive emotes when I stream on YouTube. If you're interested in checking out the Patreon, I'm going to have the link in the description and in the pinned comment down below, as well as the link to my Discord should you want to join that as well. And if you want to become a channel member, the big, beautiful join button is front and center on my homepage right here. And if you do decide to support the channel in any way whatsoever, know that I am unimaginably grateful, and I can't wait to provide you with even more top-notch content at my trademark top speed. Now, let's get on to the video. Welcome, my dear viewers, to another Alliteration Gaming video. My name's Levi, and today, my patron Josh is going to be tasking me with a build deck on Muscular, specifically on the Earth symbol. No determined victory smash memes here. We are going for a very, very cool and stable build. Josh is a pretty new player, so we had a lot to talk about. This one is a bit of a longer one, but honestly, we both learned a lot in the process, and I think we figured out some really, really cool engines to put inside this deck that make it a very, very tight, concise list that I'm very excited for Josh to start testing out. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. Mr. Josh, I want you to just hit me with what's going on with this deck, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, so I mean, at face value, I think there's a lot to like about Muscular. He's big and beefy and pretty straightforward. I love that he gets stronger with almost every successful attack, and his response is kind of the aggro player's dream. You get rewarded for face blocking, so that's cool. I chose Earth because when I saw the character initially, my first thought was, okay, he needs throws to gain tokens. And Earth gave me Overhead Reversal and Cat's Claw, which were both 4 diffs and seem to have pretty good utility. But I'm kind of trying not to overthink him. You know, I think it's just get as many tokens as quickly as you can and then just start putting the hurt on your opponent. I mean, real quick, I do have some initial concerns, which are, you know, again, initial concerns that I've noticed, which are, do I have enough kill moves? Am I too slow because it's looking a little sluggish? And more broadly, I've never played a 5-hander before, so literally having fewer options in hand is going to be kind of a new experience for me, but that's kind of where I'm at.
There is, yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Muscular is very cool. He's a big old beefcake that makes things really big. He's like he's like a slower man's Nomu, but definitely not a thinking man's Nomu. This guy is as straightforward as it comes, but there's definitely a little more nuance to it. And I think I have to very much agree with your sentiment of I might be overthinking it. There's a lot of things going on in this deck. This attack lineup, it's very, very all over the place. Foundations are a little bit more streamlined, but I do think that there's a lot of really key things that we're missing, as I don't see a vision with the foundations. So I want to, especially in the attacks too, honestly, I want to streamline them a lot so that we can kind of get a broader idea of what we're going for with this deck.
Cool.
So you mentioned that you do have a lot of throws in here, which I don't hate. Obviously, the cool thing about Muscular is you can't pump your throws, but throws are guaranteed damage, so you're going to get your muscle counters. I think the good Muscular decks are going to have like a nice handful of throws in them, while also maintaining actual moves that actually kill people, which I don't think that we really possess in our deck. We've kind of got a lot of random stuff here and there. But speed is definitely what we're going to want to be thinking about because our character pumps a ton of damage, right? So,
yeah, I mean, I was looking at this before we started, and I had this pit in my stomach because I realized as it stands now, I mean, pretty much everything I throw can be blocked.
Yeah, we've got this 2-speed move here, this 2-speed move here. You know, this is a 5-speed move. That's pretty cool. And then we just got like a bunch of throws. We've got the muscle rush, which is also pretty slow, which is also kind of okay because it's mostly there to get counters. But then we've got like a bunch of throws. We've got a flash move. Yeah, this is super all over the place. So honestly, I think the big thing before we actually start looking at like what I'd like to put in, I would actually like to look at what I'd like to take out.
Okay.
So as far as the throws, I think overhead reversal is really good. And then I think Cat's Claw is okay. And then I think Muscle Rush is just a better throw anyway, because late game we can pump it, and it also does very cool things on block and has a really nice block as well. I think, so we've currently got a 58 card deck. I'm down to continuously tread near that number, which means that our attack lineup is probably going to be somewhere around the 20-ish range, somewhere around like 17 to 20 more than likely. Meaning, as far as the throws are concerned, I don't think we have room for a massive amount of them. Let me know what you think of this. I think the overhead reversal is the only throw I'd like to keep in, and then the muscle rush. And that's going to effectively give us like 7-8 moves that are going to guarantee us counters as our pokes.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I see what you mean with muscle rush, because it's kind of an unofficial throw, but it's also nice because it can benefit from his counter boost.
Yep, it can be. Obviously, it's not super fast, so like kill card is a strong term, but it is something that we get to put 1,000,000 damage on in late game. That's all we actually care about doing. So we get like the best of both worlds out of the muscle rush, and then the overhead just builds our really strong zeros, which is fantastically nice. And I think if we're only going to have 2 quote-unquote throw slots, I think overhead and muscle rush are the 2 we want.
So the commit 1 face down rival foundation on Cat's Claw, that's not doing it for you?
If we were going to play more than 2 different attacks that served as throws in our deck, that would be the next one I'm down for. But I think the rest of our attacks, the other like 3 or 4 moves that are going to exist in our deck, probably need to be cards that are actually going to kill people. I've also got a lot of cards that provide really annoying block ultimatums, which might just result in free damage anyway, so they can be even better than the throws because they also get to be actual moves, right?
All right, I like free.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and gut the Cat's Claws. Let's get him out of here. The trap flexes, the king, Richard Flexum. He's got to go though. He's not the king in this list. Right. And then as far as there's a couple other cards that I just don't think are particularly good for our character. I'm not a fan of Final Exam Gut Shot because it's a non-throw, but we still can't damage pump it because it's a flash move.
Fair point.
And then the Scorching Aura has this big 5 damage. It's got this cool on-hit effect. We don't actually interact with that positively at all, right? Our 2 mid for 5 with an on-hit effect already wants to be blocked. When we make it a 2 mid for 10 with an on-hit effect, they still just want to block it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that either of these moves are particularly good in our deck.
Okay, I'm with.
Don't worry though, because like I have a lot of attacks down here. We're gonna have a lot of options to talk about. Do not worry. And then the Hellflame Pounce, I also I don't think that we're gonna end up with like a massive amount of Furies. Either way, I don't think it's like a particularly great move. Again, it's a 3 diff, which is cool. It's a 3 speed, which is cool. But we've got much better things to put in our deck. I promise.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm here. I willingly put myself in your capable hands. My thinking with the Hellflame was it was exactly what you mentioned. It was just having some 3 diffs, just kind of in theory being able to string out some more attacks.
I love 3 difficulty attacks. You can show me 3 difficulties with no abilities, and I'm like, okay, where can I slot them in though? I love 3 difficulties, but I think as the Earth symbol, we're very resource intensive, and since we have to commit a hefty amount of our attack slots to these poke attacks just to get our counters, I think the rest of our attacks need to be very impactful. They need to be these very speedy, very hard hitting moves that are going to actually put our rival in those tough positions when we're putting 1,000,000 damage on everything.
Cool.
So going down into the attacks here, I've got honestly a lot of things to talk about here. So I want to start off with probably the most inconsequential one, and that's Back Alley Haymaker. Back Alley Haymaker is just the most staple of staples. It's really hard to justify a deck on these 3 symbols without 4 of this guy in it. This card's crazy.
It looks, at first, I mean, I've never played with it before, but at first glance, it looks pretty awesome. Also, I love stun. You don't have to sell me on anything with stun.
Yeah, stun 2 to set up. Stun 2 is like +2 speed for the rest of the turn, right? Depending on how you think about it. And that's just amazing. It's got EX, so we get to use all the momentum from our throws and our muscle rush to make it even faster. It's going to either draw us cards, which as a 5-hander is great. It's going to build in our zeros, which Earth has some really busted zeros. In the grand scheme of the game, this is pretty much a guaranteed 4 of every time.
Yes, and the EX is great. Give me all the speed you can give me.
This card does like 9 things, and it could do like 4 of them and still be really good.
Awesome.
So now I think we get to be a little bit more selective about things, because I think we have a flurry of moves here that are really nice. So we've got our pokes with the overhead and the muscle. We've got our really good like flow setup attack with the back alley. I think these last 2 slots, we should probably think about how we're going to close out the games here. Back alley will close out games sometimes just because it's just got random EX. The Nightmare Physique you've already got in here, I actually really love this attack in this character.
Yeah, this is another one I was looking at before we started, and I was almost wondering if it should be maybe a 3 of.
I do like it, at least as a 3 of. I think it just being like a free 7 mid in our deck is really, really sweet. Also, like if they full block it, which they probably want to, because it's going to be for way more than 5 damage, we get to just target flip something. That is really, really, really powerful.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to use all those counters to boost the speed on something, for sure.
It is very nice. Yeah, this is just like always a 7 mid in our character, and I think that's just sweet. It's also got a really nice block. I like this card a lot.
I mean, do you think it should be more than a 3 of? Like, are you thinking of it as a 4 of, or where are you?
We don't really want to see it like super early game. I mean, it's an okay poke. It's fast. But we don't really want to see it super early game. I think 3 is okay because we do have other very cool ways to kill people with this guy.
Cool.
So double overhead hammer fist, the muscular ultra rare. How do you feel about this card?
I feel fine about this card. Admittedly, the only reason this card wasn't in the deck that I sent you is because I'd been sitting on the first build of this muscular for like a week.
So this wasn't revealed yet, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure they're not going to reveal any more muscular cards. And then I think like a day after I sent you the list, they revealed this card.
Yep. This card's obviously very cool. It's got 0 speed, which stinks, but it basically has pitch of momentum and gains speed equal to your muscle counters, right? The damage of this attack -5, meaning you're going to get a speed for every damage pump that you've put on it. So, I mean, even once you just hit like 4 or 5, it's just like a 4 high for 5 as a 4 diff, which is not bad. But then also, you get a muscle counter and they have to flip a foundation to block it. I mean, we talked so much about how the throws are great because they're guaranteed counters, but we also need to make sure that we're playing attacks that kill people. This does both of those things.
Yeah, I'm also not hating that it's a low block.
It is a nice low block. Earth is not as hurting for low blocks as it is anymore, but most of our good cards that are low blocks are like +3s. So a +2 is quite nice.
Yeah, he's looking good for sure.
Yeah, given that like we throw it down early game, it's a guaranteed counter. We throw it down late game, it's our big move. I'm really just into this as a 4 of.
Yeah, I can vibe with that.
I think this is kind of the move that strings both of those things together, actually, just as far as like this card kills people, and if we find it early game, right? That's the issue with like physique, right? We find physique on turn 2, you know, if we don't have the counter to give it speed, doesn't feel super great. But this, yeah, we can just throw this down like unconditionally every time. And worst case scenario, it gets full blocked, and they have to flip a foundation and we get a counter out of it. That's like a good rate.
Yeah, I mean, it's already like the attack lineup overall is already starting to feel like it has way more utility, way more options.
Yep, we have like a focus now, right? We have these 3 attacks that guarantee counters. We have back alley that just does everything. We have physique and overhead that can kill people. How do you feel about the rapid punches in this slot?
You know, I'm not married to it. I think really the one thing I liked about it was the response, just being able to draw cards.
It is pretty nice, but also it dealing damage is a bit of a win more scenario, right? I mean, it's essentially a 5 low because it counts itself, right? It's a 5 low on a 4 diff, which is not bad. But if we're wanting to put our rival into tough positions when it comes to blocking, especially when it comes to getting speed, I've got some better things that I think we could look at.
Sure.
Notably, high engine kick. Discard a card, this gets +2 speed. If you discard an attack, it gets 4 speed, and then you draw a card to replace what you drew. Or would you discard it? If you discard an attack, this is an 8 high for 4. Late game, it's going to be an 8 high for 10+, right?
So my only concern, and again, I want to stress that I'm a total noob when it comes to 5-hander.
Don't sweat it, man.
Should I be worried about the cost to play being discard 1 card?
So you draw 1 card, right? So it's a wash. You're not actually losing anything.
Oh, gotcha.
So you see how there's the period after the instead? The draw a card sentence happens no matter what, not only if you discard an attack.
Okay, I don't see how I missed that. Okay, yeah.
No, it's okay. It's a weird distinction, especially because it comes like after all those words. You're like, oh, by the way, after all that, draw a card.
Yeah, no, 1000%. That looks great.
So like, if you just want like a high base speed move, high engine is always 6 and sometimes 8 speed, as opposed to rapid punches being 5 speed. Alternatively, if we want to focus more on the utility of like finding more attacks, Ignited Arrow is very good. If it's blocked, discard cards until you find an attack and pick it up. It's going to get blocked, right? It's going to be a 2 high for 1,000,000. So it's essentially just going to eat a card out of their hand and turn into another attack.
Oh, man, I mean, those both sound awesome. I think I'm leaning towards high engine kick, but both because of that speed boost is huge.
It's
but also,
big. It's big.
Yeah, and also that looking at the kind of the general stats and getting another 1+ mid doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah, I like high engine a lot. I've also got Hardened Frenzy, which says if it's full blocked, you get to build it face down. And then if you've built a card this turn, it gets 1/1. This is just kind of another like, hey, you want to half block this, which means I get a counter and you take big half damage because it's going to have all of the muscle damage on it. Or you just full block it and I get a free resource out of it, which I don't think is terrible. I don't know how often we get to turn on the +1/+1 though, because we only have stuff like Back Alley Haymaker. This is really good when it's like with all of Kirishima's other attacks, right?
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I was kind of thinking the same thing. As a rule of thumb, I know there are obviously huge exceptions, but whenever possible, I love to be able to utilize every enhancement on the card as much as I can.
Yeah, I put the card in my deck. I want the whole card, not half the card. I also have Hardened Chop as a way to effectively be like 2 attacks in 1. This card just says you're gonna give me 2 cards out of your hand, right? We're going to put all of our muscle damage on it, and you're going to give me 2 cards because you can't afford to just take like 10.
I mean, I'm a sucker for hand disruption.
It's nice. I've also got Merciless Rush, which is kind of a different flavor of Hardened Frenzy. This one says if you full block it, destroy a foundation, but it's also a 4 diff if your hand size is less, and it's got EX2 and is a 1 low block.
Oh man, this is turning real embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, man, I know. Trust me, I understand. I don't know what the correct one to tell you here is. I think it's definitely not Rapid Punches, which puts us down to 18 attacks. So I think we have room for like a cool like another 3 cards here maybe. If anything, maybe double overhead could become like a 3 of. And then now we have a 3 of slot to hit 20 attacks.
Yeah, I keep coming back to high engine kick just because it being a 4 diff is real attractive.
I think it's between these 3 for sure. Chop is cool because it gets 2 of their cards. Rush is cool because it takes away it punishes them for half blocking, and punishes them for full blocking. But high engine does just like kill people.
Wow, this is tough. Yeah, because I mean, but also you get breaker with hardened chop.
You do get breaker with hardened chop, which is quite nice.
I'm thinking maybe hardened chop.
Let's do it. I love hardened chop. This card's crazy. This card is super nuts. So now, I mean, look at the stock lineup now. Right, we've got overhead, muscle, and double overhead to guarantee counters. We've got back alley to build, to stun, to set up, to do everything, right? We've got chop to take 2 cards out of their hand so that our other attacks just get to kill them after. And then we've got nightmare and double overhead to just be really, really fast, big damage moves. This looks beautiful to me now.
Yeah, I'm digging it for sure.
All right. And I mean, obviously you can always take the others into consideration. If you're playing the deck and you're like, oh man, maybe I need some more low blocks, right? Rush can be a great one to go back to. But now,
if I'm playing a game and I'm struggling and the cards aren't working, I could throw up a fist and be like, well, Levi made me do this.
Yeah, exactly. Levi made my deck bad. This loss was on him, not me. You didn't actually beat me. So let's talk about foundations now. And real quick, I want to look at our block zones now because they don't look great. We've got 13 low blocks in our deck, which is not super good. Thankfully, I've got a lot of low blocks in here that we can use to pad that out as we go through our foundations. But basically, as we go through our foundations, just keep in mind that a low block coming in can be very valuable because that's the number that we're looking to pump up right now.
Cool.
So once again, I would kind of like to go through and just look at what I think might be a lot of weak links in this foundation lineup.
Yeah, lay it on me.
So we've got tight-lipped and quick to act as zeros in here that I think are really good. As far as the zeros inside of our deck, I like that we have a ton. We're going to build out super hard, super early, super safely. But I don't think that Battle Resolve and Internship with Best Genist are the best ones that could be inside of our deck.
Okay.
Battle Resolve is like okay, especially since like gaining health in our character is pretty cool, but I think you like have to find all 4 for it to really be valuable. And then Internship is actually pretty good. I just really don't like its block mod, to be honest.
Yeah, that 3+, yeah, fair.
Yeah, so I think for now 8 zeros is not a bad place to be at. How do you just feel about taking both of these out and then maybe revisiting more zeros if we can find room for the tight lips?
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
I realize I have quick to act in the sideboard as well, since it's already, even though it's already in your deck, which is pretty funny. Good job, Levi. So that's gonna so that's gonna free us up quite a lot of room. Next, how do you feel about celebrity status in here?
Celebrity status. I am all about celebrity status.
Okay.
Unless you don't like celebrity status, in which case, boo, thumbs down, can't stand it.
So the main thing about celebrity status is I don't think that we have a lot of ways to combo with it here, right? Celebrity status is cool if you have a lot of draw power, right? Add momentum to the top. Now I'll use my card that draws a card and I'll draw that attack back to me, right? But the only thing that really does that here is like back alley haymaker.
I mean, I'll give you my quick case for celebrity status. Again, I'm really not married to it. I think what I liked about it was, in theory, I'm getting a decent amount of momentum from the throws I have, and because I have a pretty good amount of 5 diff cards, being able to manipulate the top of my deck a little bit seemed nice.
So the thing is, though, if we're only getting our threes, our 3 checks, our throws into our momentum, we don't want to put 3s on top of our deck unless we have a way to draw them. Because then we're checking 3s, and that's not good.
Yeah, that is a really good point.
Yeah, Celebrity Status is really cool in decks that have like passing the torch and stuff, right? To instantly draw cards so they can put that momentum on top and then grab it. But we don't really have like on-demand draw power on the Earth symbol. And there's some that we can put in, but I don't think it's on-demand enough to like justify this in our deck as opposed to some of the other things that I need. Because I think the big thing we need right now in this Foundation lineup is we need defensive cards. Because the big thing about Muscular and what makes him really cool is that he wants to block and he wants to take damage. So for us, it's very, very beneficial to have speed reduction in our Foundation so that we can block, and then damage reduction so that when we take the attacks, they're really, really small damage, right? And there are a lot of cards on. I think that's what actually makes him so good on Earth, is there are a lot of ways to do that on Earth.
I mean, I'm definitely down to swap out Celebrity Status for something.
All right, so let's move the celebrities out of here for now. The rest of this, I don't terribly mind. Snack Time is really strong. 1 speed and stun 1 for discarding a card is like a great exchange rate. But we just finished talking about how we don't really have draw power in this deck, so I really don't know that we can afford to feed Snack Time very much.
Yeah, I mean, I've over snack timed plenty of times with 6-handers, so maybe not a good idea to get in trouble with that with a 5-hander.
I think what you had before, it made a little sense, right? But we have changed the deck quite a bit, and now all of our attacks are very impactful, right? These are all like really threatening moves to where we only need to throw out like a couple of them, and they put a lot more weight on the board, that trading a card for a speed and stun 1 is just not as valuable anymore. So I think Snack Time can actually make its way out of the deck, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Armored Muscles. I am okay with Armored Muscles. I don't hate this card. Carpool to Work is not really offering a ton of value in us. It's a pretty cool one of, but I don't think that we're like momentum hungry enough that it does too much for us.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. It was really just in there because I needed some more low blocks.
I got you. Well, don't worry. We have really good low blocks that we're going to put in. And then lastly, Pump Up. I love Pump Up. I actually, before we do anything else, can we make this a 4 of? I think this card's insane. I love this card. This is like our card.
It looks awesome. I cannot wait to play with this card.
On-demand seal is very nice, but just being able to just stack the muscle counters for free is so nice. If we have too many extras in our hand and we can't build them, it's a 1 low block. If we do get the chance to build them, this thing is not unique. This is just free muscles every single time our turn comes around.
Give me them muscles.
Yeah, I love the idea. Like, man, imagine we just get like 2 of these on board and we just toss a throw out there every turn and we're ramping 3 muscle counters a turn just on our turn.
I'm like, super into it.
It's gonna get crazy. I love this card. I think this card's so sick. Okay, so we have gutted our Foundation lineup. There are not a lot of things left in here anymore because we've got a lot of stuff to put in. So I talked about speed reduction and I talked about damage reduction. Let's attack those 2 things first before we worry about like tech pieces.
Cool.
So let's look at the damage reduction first. So I've got 3 cards to check out here. We've got Resistance, which says commit, your rival's next attack this turn gets -2 damage. We've got Harden, which says when you block with it, the next one gets -2 damage. And we've got the Masked Menace, which says add this to the pool for -2 damage, playable while committed. And also you can commit it for +2 speed and -1 damage, which is great on either player's turn, right? My big damage move, because of all my muscles, is going to get 2 speed and lose 1 measly damage, or your move that I'm going to take is going to get faster and -1 damage, because I'm going to take it anyway.
Yeah, really a lot of nice utility in that one.
Yeah, so I want you to kind of envision the scenarios here where, like, imagine the world where you say, you have all of these cards, right? You say, I commit Resistance, your next one's -2. Now I'll block with Harden, your next one's -2. And then if you do throw it out there with -4 damage, now I'll put the Masked Menace and I'll commit Masked Menace for -1 damage. Now I'll put into my card pool for -2. That is -7 damage.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Basically, what we want to do here is we want to block an attack, and then through these cards, say your next one is as small as can possibly be, take it, build down the thing that we blocked with. Even better if it's a harden, right? Because we get to put damage on our harden chop. 3 damage is pretty big. We get to put 2 damage on anything. That's a great card to have on board. And then we just get to take a very measly amount of damage from your next one, and then get our muscle counter, build our block down, and then just have a really good time, right?
Yeah, I'm also liking the stun hate you get from resistance.
It's a nice breaker 1/2. These are nice blocks as well, right? Like +2 high with an on block is fine. +3 mid with breaker 1 is like okay. That's an okay exchange. So we have like 20-ish slots in our foundations right now to bring in, and I would like to see all 3 of these cards come in at because I think this is like our engine, right? Making your moves just like 1 damage minimum, and then taking our 1 damage, getting all of our pluses, and then getting our muscle counters. Like you kind of see the vision that I'm going for here with this engine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think harden and resistance, I mean, resistance is spam and it's got breaker, so I think it's okay to come in at 4. Harden is a really nice block, so I think it's okay at 4. Masked Menace, the block isn't as great, so maybe it's more of like a 3 of.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Yeah, using that as a 3, maybe even a 2, depending on what numbers we need.
Yeah, we can kind of go over our zones at the end and you know, reevaluate it a little more. But I do think that these are all really, really, really good cards for our engine. Like if we can like play an attack, build 3, and then hold a harden every single turn, that just constantly puts our rival into really, really tough positions.
Yes. Liking, you know, it's like when I first started on this deck, I think I loved that it was so aggro, but it plays, in theory, it plays pretty nice defensively too.
Damage reduction is like a really unexplored thing in MHA so far as a format, because as you can see, when you start like stacking damage reduction and you have the ability to make moves like 1 or 0 damage, it can be really, really frustrating.
Yes, having been on the other side of that several times, it would be nice to dish it out for once.
Yep. I mean, we never have to worry about that because we make a million damage moves. So now let's talk about speed reduction. And if we're gonna talk about speed reduction, and we're gonna talk about needing low blocks, high value target is the card that we want in our deck. This is a card that I'm not super familiar with, but at first glance, I can see why you like it. Yep. When blocking, it is 2 foundations. That's awesome. Like flat out, that's just strong. And it's not the best low block, but I'm gonna be honest with you, we're playing the Earth symbol. We're not gonna find very good low blocks in general. We just need to find them in some capacity.
That is true. Also, worst case, I'm working with 36 health, so...
Yeah. You're also, like, you know, just fine with taking them sometimes. As long as it's like a 1.3 or something, like, massive, right? Yeah. You're okay with taking the low poke attacks.
For sure.
So, I think high value is just like a 4 of jam. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, let's try it.
I think that's just one of our best defensive pieces that we can wager as the Earth symbol. Earth for the longest time was just like famous for not having speed reduction. So to be able to put some in there and get the low block out of it is really nice. So this is actually really funny. We actually have less mid blocks than we have low blocks now.
Wow. This is the first time that's ever happened to me.
It's pretty funny, but I mean that's just what happens, you know. When I deck build, I like to just put like my good cards in and then look at block zones after a first draft or two, right? And so we're kind of going through all of those stages at once.
Well, you know, speaking of mid blocks, I'm looking at the side deck and I keep glancing back at Tight-Lipped.
Tight-Lipped is a very, very nice mid block. I will say Tight-Lipped is a very nice mid block. I think I could maybe see us doing like 2 quick attack, 2 Tight-Lipped. Let's see how our zones pad out at the end of the rest of these foundations. Cool. So since low blocks aren't a big concern anymore, now that we've got our high values in there, I had Glamorous in here. Illuminous is a pretty nice card, especially to hate on speed reduction, but I don't know if we need it as much now that we've kind of evened out our zones.
Yeah, I mean, I could go. I don't have any strong feelings about it. I could honestly go either way.
Yeah. I also have Apathetic and Super Regen here, which are just kind of some very like generic like staple Earth symbol cards that are really nice. But honestly, with us playing like our whole damage reduction engine, I don't know if we have room for these cards, especially with them being high blocks.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one I find the most attractive is maybe Apathetic, just because flipping is never a bad thing to have. But I think I'm on the same page as you.
Yeah,
I don't know how to include it.
It's nice, especially like to target down like stuff that disrupts our big attacks, like stat resets and stuff like that. But spoiler alert, I want to get Season the Advantage in this deck somehow, and that's going to take care of our flipping as well as be a mid block.
Love it. And I love, I'm all about actions, so
yes,
very excited.
My man. It's a little tough to play actions in 5-handers sometimes, but we're gonna make it happen because Season is just that good.
All right, you'll make me a happy man.
It's going to happen. So now I guess let's look a little bit at both mid blocks and speed reduction. Our choices kind of here are Shock Absorption and I'll Protect You. Both of them are one-time uses, but I'll Protect You is going to be -3, but Shock is -2 playable while committed, so it's kind of like -3 since you've already used it to commit, depending on how you think about it. I think these are both really good. You do have to destroy Shock Absorption, so it's a minus in the long run, but it's also got a slightly better block mod. How do you feel about either of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'm leaning towards I'll Protect You just because maybe it was the way I was just taught the game, but I'm always really weary of foundations that destroy themselves.
Mm-hmm. It's the words playable while committed are a rare commodity in this game, and they're very nice. But I do, as a 5-hander with limited resources, I do enjoy my foundations that stick around.
Yeah, that's why, and I also see the downside of I'll Protect You, that you really only get to use it once, but I don't know, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Shock Absorption you also only get to use once, right? So
yeah,
and
good point.
Yeah, so let's get rid of Shock Absorption here. Let's jam a set of I'll Protect Yous in here, and now let's look at where we are globally. We've got 60 cards. We've got 23 highs, 20 mids, and 17 lows. Things are looking pretty nice. So now we can actually kind of go in there and look at our actual card quality. How do you feel about learning the standards in here?
How do I feel about learning the standards? Again, because it's a card I've never used before, I'm in your hands. I could kind of go either way.
Mm-hmm. I think learning the standards is nice, but I think it's a little bit more of a sideboard card. Learning the standards is really good for those like early game aggro decks that just really want to go in on you on like turn 2. It just tells them to stop, which is really nice. It's obviously like we have to take damage from an unblocked attack, which is something that we do want to do a lot as Muscular, and we've got all of the main decked damage like reduction. But at the same time, it is a heavy cost. It's not something we want to use willy-nilly. It's only really good in scenarios where it's going to find like max value. Like in those scenarios where telling them to stop right now is going to be super duper punishing. It's also very good against combo decks, because they have to play a non-attack card. It's going to clog up their combos. So it's a good sideboard piece, but I don't know if it needs to be here in the main deck.
Yeah, especially if we're trying to fill up some room for, say, I don't know, a Seizing the Advantage.
It's Seizing the Advantage is going to happen. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. It's on the way. So I think this card, keep it in your sideboard. Keep it in your sideboard, Josh. But I think it's okay for it not to be inside of the main deck.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
And then the other thing I want to look at, since our high blocks have kind of gotten so taxed lately, do you think that there's something else we could play over Armored Muscles? Are you married to this card?
I'm not looking at it again. It's tough. What's nice about it is I'm sure of, and I'm sure, I start the game, I'm like, oh, I have 36 health, I'm gonna do a ton of blocking with my face, and then a couple turns later, I'm gonna be like, ooh, I really shouldn't have done as much of that. So being able to build up health is nice, but I'm not super married to it.
Yeah, I do have, so I don't want to drop our foundations too much anymore. So Season the Advantage will probably come in either just adding cards to the deck, or maybe trading out for the Sugar Rushes. I do like the Sugar Rushes a lot though. But honestly, if we're looking at Armored Muscles it's like this card does two things, right? It heals 3 and it controls our rivals' foundations. But we already decided that Apathetic and Super Regen weren't worth it, and they do both of those things as separate cards. So I think it feels like we've already resolved that we're not married to this effect. You know what I'm saying? How would you feel about cutting this card for a 4th Masked Menace and a 3rd Male Bonding?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I think Male Bonding is very good in our deck, and it's also a low block, right? And then the more I think about it, the more I'm less worried about Masked Menace's block mod, because it's just such an integral part of like our engine.
Yeah, I mean, there's such nice synergy between all the muscular cards, so getting another Masked Menace in there doesn't feel like a bad thing at all.
Yeah. I love the idea that just every turn we're gonna have some of these cards that just have this damage reduction on demand, so we can really, I mean, that's basically what tells your rival to stop, right? A resistance, and then a resistance with like a Masked Menace on board says, hey, do not play your next one, buddy. It will be 1 damage, I will take it, I will get a counter, and I will build my Masked Menace back face down.
Alright, you know what, get Armored Muscles out of here, get it out of my sight.
Exactly. So that puts us in a really good spot block-wise. Let's talk about these Season the Advantages, man. This card's crazy. As a 5-hander, this is an action that does not matter because it replaces itself as a face-down foundation. It gives speed, which is what our deck needs, and it flips all of their things that reset our stats after we pump them up. I think there should just be 4 of these inside of our deck.
Okay, well, let's go for it.
I'm very into it. And then at that point, I am like one of the biggest Sugar Rush power-up stands in the world, but I think if we're going to play 4 seasons, we should probably just cut this card.
Yeah, I'm with you. I also love Sugar Rush. I play it in a bunch of other decks.
I play it in everything, man. I think that card should be in like every deck on those symbols. But in our deck, we're a 5-hander. We have other actions we want to play. We don't want our turn 1 builds clogged up too much, you know?
Yeah, no, it's definitely like a kill your darling situation.
I love that. I love that statement. That's like perfect. We also like don't get as much value out of the damage because we put a ton of damage on already. What we really wanted out of Sugar Rush was that 2 speed, but Seizing also does that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think Seizing makes a lot of sense in this deck.
Yeah, so we now have a 60 card deck. We've got 20 attacks, which is exactly 1/3, which is right where we want to be. And then we've got 19 highs, 23 mids, and 18 lows. Man, I think this is it, bud.
It looks really good.
And there you have it, guys. That is going to be it for our Earth Muscular list. Big thank you again to Josh for commissioning this video from me. If you want an experience just like this, you can check out my Patreon, link down below in the description and in the pinned comments. I've also got other tiers on there for videos that you can decide that I make. Tons of really cool commission work that you can do with me. You can also hit the join button down there to become a channel member, which is going to score you some sweet emotes and badges when I stream on YouTube. And of course, if you just enjoyed this video, and especially if you learned anything from it, I would love if you could hit the like button and or leave me some feedback in the comments section below and tell me how you like these styles of videos. Above all else though, thanks so much just for making it to the end of this one. It really means a lot. That's all the time I've got for today though, and I hope I can see you in the next one.